Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Beely Podcast. I'm Gavin, and welcome to the first episode this year. Today, we are joined by our counselors, and we're going to be doing a mental health episode today.
And today, we're joined by a few of our Beely Podcast members. We have Bella, Sasha, Jesse, Gavin. We have Kelly, Elliot, Iman, and last but not least, we have Xavier. I'm Mr. Smith. I'm the podcast advisor as well as the podcast teacher here at Elite, and we're excited. We have our amazing school counselors here today. We have Miss Lively, Miss Yazdani, Miss Lammers, and Miss Ramirez. Welcome. All right, and Gavin, want to take us away?
Yes, I do. Can you tell us about the importance of mental health and why it matters for our students?
Sure. Thank you, Gavin. Hi, everybody. My name is Miss Nicole, one of your school counselors here at Elite. So it's super awesome to be here and to have this conversation with you all today. I'm excited to share more about mental health and to hear from each of our counselors as well. So Gavin, to your question about why is mental health so important, I always explain that it's just like our physical health, right? We have mental health. Sometimes it can be more challenging to care for because it's not as visible, right? In the way that when something like if we break a bone or we get an infection, we know to go to the doctor for those kinds of things. And so it's the very same thing with your mental health. It's really important to make sure that you're getting support and maintaining things for your mental health. And we're going to talk about how to do that today. And then the other thing too is mental health is a skill. Supporting your mental health is a skill that you work on over your lifetime, right? So you might have some bad days, and that's normal. We all have bad days, but it's about learning those skills step by step to make sure that you're taking care of yourself and getting the support that you need. Yeah, I would love to hear from you all. What do we think about mental health and why it's important for you?
Honestly, I super agree that it's definitely really important because there's a lot of students and just like people who maybe they're like can't keep control or maybe they're just kind of dealing with things outside of school, and it's important to have people to actually are able to and are like they know what to do to help you out with your mental health, and it just helps because it gets them like back on top of school, and it helps them to be just become like more mentally happy in general, which is just more like like better to see, So
To add on what Xavier said, I was thinking that people are so often they push society images to themselves and subjects of what they have to be, and there's so often they push things down, and then everything it bubbles up, everything comes to the surface eventually. So they push it down, and then they have a mental breakdown or a break. So it's really important to release your feelings a little by little with someone who cares.
Uh, to add on to what Kelly is saying, I agree because there are some people, including me, that have decided to put on more weight than people should be. I can say I am one of those people that have trying to say I have a good mental health, but push it down. Just say, oh, I'm doing fine, or I'm just going to ignore this, hoping that the problem will go away. But yeah.
And Jesse, that is a very strong thing as well. And that takes a strong person to talk about and or like to talk about that sort of topic and about yourself in that sort of way. And definitely I want to add on to what Kelly said as well. People do push it down, and that's not okay. You need to, and it may seem okay in the moment, but you need to talk to our awesome student counselors we have here, or honestly just get help in general from some sort of way, shape, or form, because I know we have programs somewhere in the state or in the school in general that have these support methods to help you.
That add on to what Gavin said, he is right. I have been taking some. There are some facilities that are supposed to help. Like me, for some reason, I would just always push it away because I'm like trying to be more prideful, saying like, hey, this will just go away over time. Basically, what I'm trying to say is to anybody that's listening, sometimes it's just best to go to like a parent or somebody you can trust to see if they can guide you to a resource that will help you, like a therapist, a best friend. It is always great to have somebody next to you.
Yes, and for sure at Elite, they also have like all of these resources that can really help you out, especially like basically what everyone was saying, like all these things can really bottle down and make you feel like a mess. But the great thing about Elite is that they're able to get these counselors who can take you to those resources.
I think I'm hearing a common theme when I appreciate you all so much for sharing, but I'm hearing that it sounds like a lot of people maybe think they're alone in feeling the way that they're feeling. And that might be the reason, right? That sometimes we try to push down a feeling or ignore it. And so if we listen around the room, we can hear that there's common experiences, right? That it's very common to maybe have questions about your mental health or to maybe want just a little support. And we do have lots of support here at Elite, and I know one of our other counselors is going to share more about that as well when we get there.
Actually, I'm gonna let somebody else go because I've been adding a lot.
So what kind of health are you really talking about? Like health for like eating?
I think that's a great question, Bella. Mental health is kind of all of this stuff. So when you mention eating, it might not be obvious, but that is a part of your mental health, right? So putting good, nourishing foods in your body, staying hydrated, right? That's one thing that we do to take care of our mental health for sure. And sometimes when we're feeling, pretty crummy, we want to go for those junk foods and things, right? But actually, that's something, if you can take a break to find a healthy snack, it's actually going to go a really long way towards lifting your mood and supporting your mental health.
Hopping into our second question, what kind of support does Elite offer to students in regards to mental health?
Thank you, Iman, for that question. I am Sitlali Laura. So there is always help at Elite. First of all, you all have teachers of record, right? And they're available to support you whenever you need help. And then I believe someone mentioned earlier that there's lots of other resources at Elite. So we have lots of programs and clubs that provide spaces for you all to meet friends and build a supportive network and have fun, right? And you all know now that you have a team of 4 counselors that are available to offer sessions, right, to help you all learn skills for success. We run small groups. I believe this was a question earlier, on things like managing stress, building leadership skills, and many other things. And we are also available to meet with you all individually to help with challenges and just celebrate your wins. So you're never, ever alone at Elite. There's always someone here that's available to support.
Have you ever tried putting in human interaction with Elite so that way people can actually get to know others? Because sometimes people can get alone, and just because we're friends with the teachers doesn't mean we want to, how do I put this? Be friends with other people that in their age group rather than having to deal with a bunch of people that are your parents' friends. Or as much that doesn't seem bad, but sometimes we just want somebody to connect with that is our age and dealing with the same stuff we deal with.
Jesse, are you asking about when you said, I believe you said human interactions, are you referring to in-person opportunities?
It's basically somewhat like that. I told my dad about this. He said when he mentioned human interaction, I believe he meant like actually talking to other people, not physically, but actually opening and talking in general is what I meant in human interaction, at least as far as I understand from my dad saying.
Yeah, so Elite offers opportunities for both, lots of opportunities. We do have in-person field trips, and I know some of our clubs also offer in-person events and gatherings. So I had mentioned earlier, right, that joining a club offers a safe space for you to meet friends, other students your age that have similar interests. And that is another great way for us to take care of our mental health. That was a great question, Jesse. Thank you.
Okay.
That
I
brings
had to
us,
add that in.
that brings us to question 3. What is self-care and what does it look like?
Hello, my name is Miss Meg. Thank you so much for inviting us. This is just an amazing opportunity to be able to have that human interaction that Jesse's talking about and to also spread the word. So I feel very grateful to be here. So to lean into that question, so self-care is a practice of taking care of your physical, mental, emotional, and social well-being through continuous activities that promote your health and happiness. So there are forms of self-care that we all are recommended to do. And I know we've talked about some of those, like healthy eating, drinking water, social connection. And there's some others, like taking care of your overall physical well-being, sleep, huge, huge self-care, and exercise, and just connecting with sunshine and nature. Just to name some of them, this is not an exhaustive list here. So these are just our overall self-care well-being, but there are other self-care that is unique to you and what makes you happy and what makes you healthy. So what might be self-care for me is different than what would be self-care for you. So this might be different kind of creative activities, music, various physical activities, practicing various types of being in the moment or mindfulness activities, time in nature, reading, setting boundaries, and there's so much more. One of the things I think that gets a little confusing with self-care is a lot of people may say something like, "Oh, I feel selfish doing self-care." And it's really important to remember that it's just the opposite. So the more kindness you give to yourself, the more self-compassion and love that you give to yourself, it will actually allow you to have more energy, more time, and love for others. So what self-care looks like is different for everyone. And I'm curious to know what some of your self-care is.
Uh, to add on, that's not how I kind of see self-care a little bit, but this is how I perceive it, okay?
Yeah.
Self-care is like taking care of your body, your physical health, because there's a lot more than just mental health. There's also like relationships, mental, it's basically everyday life, making sure you have good connections. When you start losing those connections, you start to see signs of where you are building up. You'll say you're getting a snack, but when really you're just eating your feelings. I have done that long enough to say, yeah, I have done this.
Yeah, thank you, Jesse. I think you really
See, Kelly
stated.
about to add on.
I apologize. Mrs. Megan can say it first.
I just think that what you had to say was so important because that connection, I know we've brought that up in several different ways. That is that form of relationship building and connection with others is a tremendous part of self-care, a very important part. So I love that you brought that up, Jesse. Thank you. And it is our overall well-being, right? Thank you.
I think we start losing these things once we start
Gavin, do you
losing
want?
control of ourselves. When something really bad happens to us, like a friend leaves us or we start failing in a class, we just stop taking care of ourselves. We think that we're the number one problem and we just kind of stop caring about ourselves.
We are really getting like caught up in this conversation, and I know it's getting like really deep and impactful. And I'd like to kind of add like a little theory, not a theory, but a theory that I also have like about self-care that kind of correlates with what Miss Lammer said. And basically, I call it like the pie, right? And how the pie works is that the pie is basically your mental health. If you give out your pieces of pie to everybody, you're not going to have enough for yourself. So when you have self-care, and for me, that could be like playing basketball every once in a while, journaling, maybe watching TV, sitting down and taking a break to just wind down and just relax. When you already go and just kind of like give out all those pieces of pie, you're not going to have any for yourself. But when you perform self-care and you take those moments to actually care for yourself, that's when you have enough pieces of pie to not only care for yourself, but to care for others. So I just wanted to add on to that because I think it's really amazing what Miss Lammers was talking about.
Because the pie is a lot more complex with that. Sometimes when you give out your slice, they'll give you their slice. It's like a web. Okay, think of like a spider web when there are all these connections holding the web together. When one of them breaks, it gets damaged, and if it gets too damaged enough, it's going to fall. And that leaves you with nothing. You have to now rebuild that web. You have to rebuild everything you just did, and that is going to be the most suffering part because you just put in all that hard work to create an art design of a complex web of theories and emotions.
Thank you, Jesse.
And
Yeah.
this
Go ahead.
this builds on why self-care is so essential, because it is continuous. It's not just a one-time thing. Self-care is something you've built up and continue to use. So when you are struggling, when you are having difficulty, you've already built up those coping skills to work through, whether it's through connection, whether it's talking to someone, whether it's going and playing a game of basketball or journaling. You've already have those in place, and so I welcome you all to find those coping skills and self-care, or to build upon them, so when you do have those difficult times, you already have that in place for yourself.
Thank you, Miss Lammers. And yeah, I agree. We all have different ways in self-care. For me, it's always been either very long drives or the gym. That's the way that I find time for just me. And I live in the middle of nowhere, so like everything's a long drive. So I am fortunate enough to have plenty of that time. But find what works for you. Find where you get to focus on you, because yeah, you have to focus on yourself so that way we're also able to take care of people. Because if we run out, then what happens, right? All right, I'm gonna ask for the last question that we have from Kelly. Go ahead.
Okay, so if we would have a friend or if we would need help, how would we reach out and what message should we take?
You know,
Thanks for that question, Kelly. My name is Miss Yazdani. I'm also one of the counselors at Elite. So we talked about this a little bit at the beginning of this podcast. I know some of you mentioned we can go to our Elite counselors, a friend, a parent, your teacher of record. Those are all really great examples of people that you can go to when you need support. Something else that we just also wanted to highlight is that we do recommend that students rely on trusted adults for advice, since they can really provide advice that is safe and tailored to you. AI tools can be helpful for information and resources, but AI isn't necessarily a substitute for support from a trusted adult. So that's just something that we would recommend, and something for you all to be mindful of. So now I want to ask maybe one or two of you to share. When you're in need of support, who do you usually go to for help?
I usually go to my parents because they're always there 24/7. If I ever need to speak to them about anything sensitive or anything, they're there for me. And so they also provide real-time support and feedback. And so I never feel left out when they're there. And they're my parents, so what can get better than that?
That's amazing, Amon. I love that. It's so special to have a support system like that.
Exactly. And also like to have a friend as well, like my bud. I've had him for 5 years, and our friendship has been stronger than ever. So we talk to each other about everything. And definitely my parents are a big factor in everything. So I definitely, holy moly, I definitely think that that parents and friends and anybody you can physically have is a pretty good factor.
That's awesome. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Thank you for sharing that, Gavin.
I guess what I wanted to add was I rarely talk to anybody, unfortunately, because like I said, the reason why I bring up like, hey, what about adding interhuman interaction to the Zoom meetings is because some people have rarely got anybody to talk to, either because they're either too busy or they're just not there, or they got a new job, or basically just doing stuff that adds less hours of being at home than being with you.
Honestly, man, I have nothing else to say other than like honestly, having good connections is key to having a very good lifestyle and also having good social, like a good social life and a good social status. That's also a very good thing to have. And just to loop back onto what I said, definitely having friends, family, cousins, uncles, aunts, anything, or anybody that you physically have as a guardian right now to talk to. Like, I have a very strong like disbelief in you not being able to just say, "Hey, can I talk to you for a little bit?" Unless, like, obviously, it's not an environment for that. So yeah.
It's so important to have those connections and all the people that all of you have identified. And also it's important to identify maybe people in your life that take from your pie, right? And then that's where you could have boundaries, right? Maybe they're not in the inner circle, maybe they're in the outer circle, right? And those are skills that you grow and practice about how to protect your pie and your safety and your mental health, right? So thank you for raising that. I'm also really curious, Ms. Yazdani mentioned the importance of, or AI, about human connection. And I would love to hear, especially from some of you that we haven't heard from yet, if anybody had some thoughts on using AI. And I know that some people might ask it for advice, right? And so what we really want to make clear is it can be so useful for so many things, but for mental health in particular, we really encourage you to go to an adult, right? Or a friend, right? Go to a human person, not to an AI. But since you guys are the ones like really in there with AI and using your devices, I'm so interested in your perspective, but also if anybody has anything else.
I think there are, like Ms. Lively was saying, there's reasons to use AI and there's reasons not to. You know, I think providing a AI voiceover for a project, it can be a perfectly acceptable thing, you know, versus asking it for advice that you would ask a person from. You know, definitely go to that person instead, because AI is just AI. It's trained by data and servers, and what it will always lack is human emotion. So that is not something you would go to for advice, versus it's more of a tool. It's like Canva or Microsoft Word. You know, it's something that we can use as a tool, but not necessarily as like a sounding board.
And specifically speaking to it about counseling advice, why take this instead? You could just ask a real physical person who's at the same school as you and has gone through the same struggles as you.
But Iman, I definitely think what you said there is talking to a real person is better than talking to AI, definitely. And then they actually share actual experience instead of like finding people that took experience. So definitely what I want to say is talking to a bot is nothing like talking to a person. The person actually has feelings, personality, and can tell you exactly firsthand what happened, what their experience was, how many days it lasted, how many months, how many years. That's definitely one thing, and how they got help. That's one main thing in my opinion. And definitely, I just wanted to say quickly, oh, by the way, Kelly, you had something you wanted to add, I think. So go ahead.
Yeah, it actually adds on to what you say, Gavin, of how important human connection is. I wanted to ask a question to the counselors. Why do you do what you do? For what? Why do you care so much about students?
That's a great question. I think we're all not trying to jump on each other and take it. So, so I have a lot to say about that, but I think we all do. We all have a heart for working with students, and just get so much joy. I find so much hope when I work with young people, right? Because I look at you all, and especially this group in this room, you're inspiring, right? And it gives me hope for what our future is. You're all kind, hardworking, thoughtful, collaborative, and that fills me up, right? To be able to work with young people. So it's a little selfish, I guess, right? Because all of the wonderful qualities that students and young people have actually make my life and my day better. And so it's just a joy for me to work with young people.
I can jump in. I think similarly to Mrs. Lively, we all have a story. So we all have experiences early on in our careers where we had the opportunity to work with students of all ages. And I think early on, when we were all a bit younger, we fell in love with this field, with the field of counseling. We felt very passionate about it. And similarly to Mrs. Lively, I think we feel as though it's a very rewarding field. So being able to help you all when it comes to meeting a goal, or helping you when it comes to planning for life after high school, and being able to support you through those next steps is a really great feeling, to be able to see you all kind of move through those different steps in life when it comes to high school, and then after high school, and whatever it is that you're planning on pursuing one day. So it's a very rewarding field.
Thank you.
Definitely.
And before
Yeah.
we do end it, I just want to put it out there to the counselors. First, thank you. And thank you for all you do. I know there's a lot that school counselors do on a daily basis. So thank you so much. But if we have students here and that are watching this, and parents, how can they reach out if they need to reach out to you?
There's several ways. So you can contact your teacher of record and have one of them connect with us. You could also find us if you go to our website. We all have links to schedule appointments with each of us. So that's another way for you to reach out to us. And like I said, a teacher of record can also submit a referral for school counseling services.
Yeah, well, it's awesome that we know that, honestly, for anybody on the podcast. And obviously, that was a terrible voice crack. But
Wow.
to end it off, I'm Gavin with the Be Elite podcast, and this has been a crazy episode. Thank you all of the counselors for coming on with us, and thank you all for watching. Comment, like, and subscribe. All the socials.